Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the Prometheus Beta QR. First off, let's do a little size comparison. Of course, it's my channel, so Spidicodelica. You can see this is a very small little light. Here it is against the EGTAC D25A, which is my very favorite everyday carry light. This is a standard AA battery. This is a 18650 battery, CR123, and a AAA battery, just like the one that is powering this little light inside here. Because this is indeed a AAA light. That is a very nice, light format. They're very common. There's a lot of joy to be found there. Next thing, this is by Prometheus Lights. These are the same people who made the Prometheus Alpha pen, which is one of my very, very favorite writing utensils. And have made other flashlights in the past, including their big, expensive custom guys. And so, I got a history with this company here. And then finally, this is the copper version, but there is also one in brass, there is one in electro-nickel, and then there's one in black. We'll talk about the differences in those models later, but this is the copper version, in case you can't tell from all of the copper. So anyways, this is the Beta QR. Let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this particular little flashlight here. To start with, this is a AAA battery light, and you know what? I like that very much. Although he includes a rechargeable sort of AAA battery, you can use pretty much any kind in there. He recommends against using alkaline, and frankly, I recommend against using just your boring alkaline batteries, because let's face it, they don't give very good run times, they explode and things. You should at least be using something like Eneloop sorts of systems just for your life in general. It's the environmentally friendly thing to do at the very least. But look, pardon me. Simple fact is that you can run down to the grocery store, run down to the gas station, whatever, find a AAA light, AAA battery very, very straightforwardly, whereas with like 18650 or CR123, you're running less of a chance of doing that. So I appreciate that very much. Sorry guys, trying to die over here apparently. But anyways, that's nice that there's a standard size. Next thing, speaking of the size, this is a nice little size. It's compact and it is actually workable on a keychain. Although it's a little bit on the heavy side, we'll talk about that later. This is not so gigantic. It is not so much bigger than a AA battery. And you know, I appreciate that very much. This feels like a very small light, and when it's mounted on the pocket clip that we'll talk about in a little bit here, it is absolutely, it just disappears in the pocket, which is great. I appreciate that very much. Next thing, this light has 3 modes to it, and they are accessed by twisting. So you twist, that turns the light on, then you twist again, it goes brighter, twist again, it goes even brighter still. And so you get these 3 modes here. There's low, medium, high. Low, medium, high, etc. The low mode has 1 lumen of output, the medium mode has 15 lumens, and the high mode has 80 lumens. That doesn't sound very impressive, but actually it is pretty impressive. The high mode is 100% visible during the daytime in a room, etc. Plenty bright for any indoor use. The medium mode is more than bright enough to navigate a darkened room, and the low mode in a very dark room is absolutely fine. So if you're a mole person, the low mode is more than sufficient. So this is a light that feels bright enough. That's kind of a weird criterion, a weird characteristic, but just using this guy, carrying this guy, this is enough light for pretty much anything that's going to come up for most people who live a mostly indoor light. It's life, that is. It's not like a searchlight, but it doesn't need to be. So that's very good. Next thing, this has very nice battery life. On the high mode, which is very bright, you get 45 minutes, which isn't great, but you know what? For the battery size, it's fine. You get 4 hours on that medium mode and 55 hours on the low mode. That's more than enough, particularly for the mole people in the audience there, but it's a solid battery life. Can't argue with that. Next thing is the quick release on this guy. So this is called the Beta QR, and the QR stands for quick release, and that's because it's got this thing on the back here that is a quick release pull. You can see here that it's got a little spring on the inside there. And then it's got this little groove, and that spring just falls into that little groove there. What this means, though, is that if you try and pull at any kind of an off angle, even very slightly off, you cannot get this loose. I'm trying very hard to pull, and, okay, that time I did, but that's because I got oblique enough to, or I got direct enough to it to pull it loose there. But you need about 10 pounds of force to get this off of there, and that's non-trivial. And so it's one of those things that I found it was absolutely secure in my everyday life, because it can't really come to either side, or come from either side, the force that is. But when you want to remove it, it's very easy to get off of there, which makes this more portable, and you're not, trying to use this with your keys hanging off the back of it. So the quick release works very nicely. It also provides the ability to install a pocket clip on here. And the pocket clip, which I'm going to go ahead and install now, it does work very, very nicely. The unfortunate part of the pocket clip, though, is that it's a little bit harder to remove. We'll talk about that later on, but it works great. And this is a nice little feature because it's a nice pocket clip. Prometheus knows how to make great clips. And this is very similar to the clip. Rubber band on there for some reason. That's on the Alpha pen. As a matter of fact, it might actually be the same clip. Looking more closely at it, looks a little long, a little wider, but either way, it's a fine clip. And there is also in the works a flex mount, where you can basically mount this guy to the arm of, well, to something, such that you can, point it directly at whatever you're working on, which is great for machining and whatnot. So I like this quick release system. It is very, very nice. Then finally on the good side, this is a beautifully machined little item here. You can see here that it's got a very nice polish to it, which is something I appreciate very much out of the box. It has great threading. It's really, that's kind of a nerdy thing to get into, but when you experience really great threading on something that's just very smooth and nice, it is a pleasure and it is a joy, and the Prometheus folks are very good at that. And I mean, on the whole, this is just a brilliantly made object. This is something that is not only a good flashlight, but a good sculpture. That's something I appreciate very much. And then finally, we come to the price. The price on this guy is $80. That's a fair amount of money. That's a little bit more than the D25A here. And it's way more than you can pay for a lot of flashlights. The thing is, honestly, that price point doesn't bother me so much because usually higher-end flashlights, especially if you come at them from, like, the machining standpoint, from, like, this is a sculpture that emits light, that's actually not bad at all. And considering the finishing quality of this, considering the light quality, the performance of it, and I don't have much of a problem with that price. It's high, absolutely, and if all you need is a flashlight, you can get one cheaper. But for what this is, for a nice piece of everyday carry sculpture that also happens to be a very competent flashlight using a AAA battery, I don't see a big problem there, but maybe I'm crazy. Well, I'm crazy, we know that much. But anyways, to me, that's good. The price on this guy is actually, I think, pretty okay at $80. It's beautifully machined, and that comes with the clip, by the way. The pocket clip is, this guy. The pocket clip's a little extra. The clip does work great when installed. The quick release system is very nice and easy to remove. It has good battery life, 3 modes, a great size. It's very compact, uses AAA batteries. All those things are good. To me, what's great about this light, though, is the light itself. This is, like I said, not only a bright enough light. I mean, carrying this guy, and especially comparing it to the Peak Eiger, which is another, this feels absolutely very, very bright. This feels like it is usably bright in most situations, which is good. But more importantly is the coloration of the light. It's kind of hard to show this off necessarily, but you can see here, maybe, I hope, that this has, it's got a high color rendering index. It's using a Nichia 219B high CRI emitter, which basically means that it shows color a lot better than most flashlights do. So you will see all of the hues of the color of the world around you as you're using this. This is a little detail, but it's something that does make a difference, and it makes things much more readable and legible, particularly if you're doing things like unplugging and replugging colored wires. I appreciate it very, very much. The light coming out of this is just absolutely beautiful, and so you're getting a lot of light that is also very pretty light, and to me at least that's absolutely what's great. And so the great to me is just the fact that this not only puts out a lot of light, but it puts out really attractive light too, rather than the cool white nastiness so many people are putting out. On the bad side, first off, something that's kind of neutral but is a thing, this whiz, the copper version particularly, will patina over time. This will start to develop, marks and whatnot. You can polish it back up afterwards, but that's something you should expect and plan on. Next thing, the functionality of the light, of the QR that is, differs by the material. The copper and the brass lights have 3 modes, whereas the black and silver lights have 2 modes. The black and silver lack the highest output setting. I suspect this has something to do with the fact that the copper and the brass are going to deal with the heat differently than the electro-nickel finish does, but honestly, that bugs me a little bit just because it should be a different product name. You should have the Beta QR and the Beta QR Plus, just so that way it's very clear to people that you're either getting the one with the 3 modes that comes in 2 colors or the one with the 2 modes, but don't say it's the same thing even though they got fundamental functional differences there. Not a big deal, but it's a deal. Next thing, this is using a twisty interface. What I mean by that is you start off by twisting once, then you twist again to keep getting brighter and brighter. This means that one-handed use, although you can do it, isn't necessarily ideal, and it's also a relatively smooth surface. You can see that they have machined in these little grooves here, which make it a little bit easier, but I don't tend to love twisty interfaces, and particularly given that both the clip and the keychain rotate freely as a result of this whole what am I trying to say here? The quick release function, that's just, it's not incredible. I don't like the twisty interfaces in general. I tend to prefer something where you can twist to set the brightness, but then use some kind of a switch to turn it on and off. But, so I don't love the interface there, but at the same time, it's a small light. They may not have much option. Next thing, this is a heavy light, particularly in the copper version. I mean, it's not, oh my god, incredible heavy, but weighs in at 1.91 ounces with the AAA in there already. It's not the end of any world, but it's a little bit heavier than some of your other lighter weight lights. It's heavier than the lightweight ones. See? It's the kind of hard-hitting journalism you're coming here for. Then finally, the clip on this guy is very pricey. Very, very, very pricey. It's $25 additional for the clip on this guy. It's a great clip. I won't argue with that. And there's a lot of benefit to it, but at the same time, that's a lot of freaking money. Oh, my God. And so as a result, this goes from being an $80 light to effectively a $105 light. And that's getting to the point where it's like, okay, you're a little proud here. And so I'd like to see the price on the clip come down, or at least to have it included for the original price. Maybe I'm being a little too picky, but that to me is not something I'm in love with, the fact that the clip costs that much extra. So to me at least, that's the bad, is that the clip is expensive, the light itself is heavy, it's using a twisty interface, even though it's got a relatively smooth surface here. The functionality of the light and the modes and whatnot differ by the material it's made out of, and then the copper will develop a patina, which may not be a problem for some people. On the ugly front is something I'm about to demonstrate, and that is that this clip just does not want to come off. I'm actually going to use the band of this watch here as sort of a way to get a little bit of extra pull on it, but what you have to do is kind of pull using some material in there while at the same time pushing. And remember, you're trying to get about 10 pounds worth of force. There we go. And I finally was able to get that out of there. You do not necessarily, I mean, at some level, you don't want the clip to be able to come loose easily, but man, is that not easy. And so it definitely battles you every time you take the clip off of there. So don't plan to pop it onto the clip and pop it back off of the clip on a regular basis, just because that's not a super pleasant process. I kind of wish that there was some mechanism, some way for that to be done a little differently, but I don't know. But to me, at least, that's kind of ugly, and that is the ugly of this light, is just that the pocket clip's kind of hard to get off. Final conclusion. This is a great light. I love this light a lot. I mean, it outputs a very nice light. Just looking at the light coming out of it, it's great. It outputs a lot of that very nice light. It gives you a reasonable runtime on it. It has an interface that is pretty intuitive, just 1, 2, 3, and is borderline boring. It's got a nice quick release system, 100%, and it does all of that while looking pretty damn good. This is a nice little sculpture, a beautifully made object, which also happens to be a very functional AAA battery light. So although it is pricey, it is twisty, and you are going to want to leave the clip on there once it's mounted. Pricey with the clip, that is. This is a damn good light. I think it is the best AAA light out there of the ones I have tried, and I have absolutely no problem whatsoever calling this little guy a gem. I think this is a great piece, and I have no trouble recommending it to pretty much anybody who wants a AAA light. Jason Wee at Prometheus is, and I think remains, one of my very favorite makers, whether it's the pens, the lights, otherwise, and this is just more proof that he is just doing great work. This is just another bright idea. Anyways, hope this has been interesting to you, that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of the day, that this review lit up your life, and now it's time for me to offer you a quick release from this video. Bye now.